This is Greg Pass with the Americans in Wartime Experience. Today's date is March the 4th, 2022, and I have the pleasure of sitting down in Arlington, Virginia at the Arlington National Cemetery with Brendan Meier. Brendan, thanks for spending some time with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us your full name and where you were born?
My full name is Brendan Eric Meier. I was born in a town called Kennesaw in the state of Georgia.
And did you grow up in Georgia as well?
Yeah, I've lived there my whole life until I joined the military.
Any military veterans in your family?
Yes, my grandfathers on both sides were in the military. On my mom's side, Marine, and dad's side, Navy.
Your grandfathers, what did they do?
They both served in Vietnam, roughly 4 years apiece. Again, Marine on my mom's side and Navy on my dad's side.
So what was your motivation to join the service?
So I was kind of just doing the normal life thing, got through high school, joined college, was getting through that. I had never really had any intentions of joining the military growing up, but I kind of got to a point where I was, I realized I didn't really have much of a purpose, a drive going through college, and decided I needed a change of pace, needed something new, needed something to really dedicate myself to. So I dropped out of college about 2.5 years in and ended up enlisting in the Army.
Why the Army?
It was off of the suggestion of a family friend, a retired sergeant major who had been in for about 30 years. I went to him first when I had considered joining the military because I didn't really know anything about it, and he was the one that said, yeah, you should join the Army if you're going to go in.
So what was your MLS on your enlistment?
11 Bravo.
11 Bravo, infantry?
Yep.
Okay. So tell us about your training, where you went, and basically what did your training entail?
So Santel, Fort Benning, I was in EC Bravo 254 was the company back in the summer of 2019. Standard OSIT infantry training. Went through the whole thing and then got to the end and was set to be sent to Old Guard Fort Meier as my first unit.
Okay. Did you know anything about the Old Guard before you found that out?
I knew that it was a ceremonial unit. I knew that the tomb platoon was here, but beyond that, I didn't know anything about it.
Had you ever been here before, prior?
Yes, I've been here to Arlington one time. It was in senior year of high school for a school field trip, and we came here and saw the whole cemetery, JFK, the tomb, everything. But beyond that, that's my only experience.
What were your observations and your memories from your high school trip?
I remember, I think the most distinct thing about the tomb in particular was just the atmosphere of like just almost an ominous dead silence, like everyone just, it's like you came here and suddenly like noise stopped existing and it's just you're watching this one man walk back and forth in front of the tomb doing the same thing over and over again in perfect harmony. It was kind of surreal, honestly.
I assume you were impressed.
Yeah, definitely. It was something that stuck with me for sure.
Can you imagine going back in time and realizing you'd be one of those guys doing it?
Yeah, I've thought about it before, and myself back then never, ever would have imagined that I would be one of the guys out there doing this. It's kind of crazy thinking about it now.
So when you found out that you were landing orders to come here, were you excited?
I was. It was not what I was expecting, obviously, because this is more of a ceremonial unit as opposed to the combat infantry training that I've been going through for the past few months throughout basic training. But I was excited to see what this place would offer coming here. You know, it's not something that you get to experience anywhere else in the Army. But the tomb was not something that I imagined I would be doing straight out of basic training. I thought that was something you would have to be much more experienced in order to even volunteer for.
And how long have you been here now?
About 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yep.
So walk us through the process it takes to, I mean, getting assigned here is one thing. It's staying here and becoming, you're a badge holder, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
And becoming a badge holder is two different things. Tell us how you get from point A to point B.
So I came to the Old Guard, started basic training, and then the next day began my in-processing, and in the middle of in-processing, I was actually, myself and one other person that I came in with from basic training with were approached by the sergeant of the guard at the time, who came up to us, talked to us a little bit about the tomb, and was like, hey, if you want to try out, we've got tryouts coming in a few days, and we both decided we're here, we're being given the opportunity, might as well go for it. And the two of us came in together, went through the qualification course, passed, went to TDY, and entered training.
What does that entail, the TDY and the entrance test?
So the entrance tryout is essentially just a day of like an interview, PT test, like normal Army type stuff, and then You have a buck march around the cemetery at night to familiarize yourself with the area, all of the headstones and everything. Sort of like a last gut check. And once you get through that, then they induct you into, well, not really induct, but they put you into what's called the TDY cycle, which is a few weeks of initial train up where you come in each day and you get some experience on the plaza, learning how the guard change works, as well as being taught how we do uniforms and everything down here, and being given the initial 7 pages of knowledge that we have to memorize verbatim.
What's that like, having to memorize all that information?
It was very overwhelming at first, just because, again, it has to be verbatim. So if they ask you something, you have to recite exactly how it says on the page, and if you mess up one word, even a little bit, it's incorrect. But surprisingly, that was the one thing that I was actually very strong with coming in, was the knowledge. The outside and uniform proficiency came with a little more time.
The knowledge, are you taking a test verbally or are you writing it down?
So it changes depending on the test level. So to pass TDY, you have to recite the first 7 pages verbally. And then from then on out, you get given more pages per test level. And then you have to write them out, the entire amount that you have. So initially it's 7, then 11, and then 17. And then once you've done all 17, the final test is a historical brief on the history of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, which is what you're learning in those 17 pages of knowledge.
All right, that's a good, let's open that door. You don't need to go through all of it, but
Yeah.
Somebody who's watching this, tell us a little bit about the history of Arlington National Cemetery, and more importantly, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier.
Yeah, so I guess just to make it brief, so the cemetery was established during the Civil War by a General Montgomery Meigs, took the land from Robert E. Lee after he defected to the Confederates, and the first unknowns were buried here. They were Civil War unknown victims in a mass grave of about 2,000 up by Robert E. Lee's front lawn. But it wouldn't be until World War I, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier was established. Essentially, an unknown soldier, an American who had fallen in World War I, was selected and taken across the Atlantic Ocean to be interred here as a representative of all of the unknowns from America who had died during that war, given their lives overseas. And then just throughout the past 100 years since then, World War II, Korea, and then Vietnam, we've again selected unknown individuals from our nation, taken them back overseas here and interred them here as representatives of all of those who gave their lives and their identities fighting overseas for America.
This has been described as a unique place in America. Why do you think it's unique? Why is it so special?
I guess I would have to go back to my observation when I came here back when I was in high school, was that the atmosphere. It's this one place where there's just kind of this subconscious understanding of a level of sacredness and reverence for this location, that people, they come here and they just kind of realize that it's different. It's almost hard to say. It's unnatural. It's something that you have to be here to understand, really.
So let's talk about the first time you actually guarded the tomb. Yeah. I understand they don't just throw you to the wolves at 2 o'clock on a Saturday.
Yeah.
You start off at night, is that right?
Yeah, so you start off at night, and then you kind of slowly work your way inwards. You do the ceremonial postings, we call them bolos, on either side of the opening of the cemetery. And then as you get more proficient, you earn the right to earn the sentinels' walks, their shifts during the daytime, and actually go out there and guard in front of the crowd when the cemetery is open.
I've had the pleasure of speaking with you guys for a couple days now, and I keep hearing the word earn. You earn the right to walk.
Yes.
You're not assigned to it. Can you explain that?
So this actually goes back to the proficiencies that I was talking about that you get trained up on, the outside performance, uniforms, and knowledge. So you come in the morning, the sentinels inspect your uniforms. They have to make sure that they are at a level that is proficient to actually go outside. And then again, you're during the nighttime practicing, and they're observing you, making sure that your performance level is suitable for going outside during the day. And then finally, you do what's called the knowledge corner 15 minutes prior to the top of the hour when we would get posted. And during that time, the sentinels will quiz you on your knowledge, which is where you have to recite it verbatim. And if you answer enough questions correctly in a row, they will send you on what we call a 3-minute go, which is where you have 3 minutes to go from whatever uniform you're in into the ceremonial uniform, And then if you successfully complete all of those, then you can come up here, get ready to go outside and actually go out and walk the mat. That's how you earn a walk from someone.
Do you remember the first time you walked?
Yeah, it was very crazy. I remember my first few times outside doing bolos, walks, and wreaths. I was incredibly nervous. Confidence was like, it's kind of hard because it's something that you're never truly ready for the first few times because it's such a big thing and you're practicing so much for it, but no matter how much you practice, you don't think you're ready. But you go out there and it's sort of an adrenaline rush, which is what carries you through the first few times because it is so crazy being out there. It's what's keeping you going, keeping the training in your mind.
What are some of the fondest memories you have guarding the tomb?
I think one of my favorite memories was when I was out here and it was just a random work day about like half a year ago. And my dad, who had never seen me guard the tomb before, I had sent him pictures and stuff, but he was stopping by DC on the way up the East Coast to go visit some family. And I got a call from him in the middle of the workday when I was on saying, "Hey, I'm outside." And I went out there, I met him, he came down, and then he stood out by chains because I was about to go on and guard the unknown. So being there to have some family actually witness me going outside for the first time was pretty awesome, very, very touching.
So you weren't given a heads up, you just coincidentally was...
Yeah, he just randomly happened to be there. So it was a great surprise.
Good. So I understand last year in November there was an anniversary. Can you tell us about the importance of that event and how you played a role in it?
So it was the 100-year anniversary of the internment of the World War I unknown, the first unknown soldier here that was interred and established to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Personally, I was not there participating in the ceremony. The relief that I was on was not scheduled to work those days, but I was, again, still here, still around and kind of observing what was going on at the time. Not in person, but again, I was witnessing the centennial goings on during the time.
So what did they do different? I understand they moved things around, the public was given more access. Tell us a little bit about the difference from what it was in November versus the way it is for the rest of the year.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is that the mat was moved and the public was allowed to walk essentially right up to the front of the crypts, where you see the three crypts in front of the tomb and then the tomb itself. They were allowed to walk right up to the front of the crypts and lay roses, which were sort of ended up surrounding the tomb as time went on. And yeah, I mean, people usually aren't allowed to come up that close. We're usually gated off several yards away from the crypts. So it's kind of a once in a lifetime thing that happened, that we allowed people to come up that close.
Did it work out well? Did the event go well?
As far as I'm aware, nothing crazy happened, which is kind of crazy to think considering how much margin for error that is in allowing such a difference to go on for a few days. But yeah, it ended up going smoothly from what I know.
So you said how long have you been assigned here?
2.5 years at this point.
So that's about the average, or that's a little more than the average, isn't it?
It's slightly more. Average is about 2 years, so I've been here a little bit longer than most, but yeah.
Have you enjoyed your time here?
Yeah, I mean, it's I've got to meet a lot of different really amazing people, got to just do a lot of pretty awesome things. Just being here, again, is a crazy opportunity and something that I never thought I'd be able to do and something that I'll be able to carry with me for the rest of my life. So
these opportunities that you have to have conversations with the public, let's say you go out there this afternoon and there's a high school class, like when you came.
Yeah.
And there's some kid that was your age and says, "Hey, this is pretty cool. I want to do this." What advice would you give him on how to achieve his goal to become a sentinel?
I mean, becoming a sentinel, it's I'd say it's half luck and half intention. You just have to first off enlist in the Army, and then you can volunteer to come to the 3rd Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard, and once you get here, you then have to again volunteer to join the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier platoon, or rather try out for it, and then the training is where it really becomes difficult. But if you can mentally push yourself through that training, it's very doable for anyone. I think anyone can do this job, has the capability to. It's just the mental perseverance to actually just like steel yourself and be like, okay, I'm going to do this. That is what separates the people that actually carry out this job from the people who are not successful in getting through training.
You mentioned, it wasn't the word shift. What do you call it? The group that you're with, is it a shift?
The relief?
Relief.
Yeah.
So basically a squad, right?
Yes, it's a squad size element.
So how many reliefs rotate through this?
So we have 3 reliefs, first, second, and third, and we rotate on and off in like a fireman schedule type thing, where we'll go on and off for 5 days, and then we'll have 4 days off to recover, a training day on the 4th day to get back ready to go, and then we'll reset.
Gotcha. So how old are you? I'm sorry?
I'm 23.
23.
Yes.
What does it feel like to be so young in the middle of history like this?
I mean, pretty wild. Again, I've worked with a lot of people here that are pretty substantially older than me, that have been in the military for much longer, seen much more in the military than I have, but I've also worked with a lot of people who are a lot younger, like young 19, 20, sometimes even 18-year-old, fresh out of basic training privates that come in and try out. So it's pretty nice, honestly, like both gleaning experience from the older people and also being able to help spread that to the newer people as they're coming in here.
So obviously we're videotaping this right now. In a few weeks you're going to receive a digital copy of the interview.
Yeah.
You'll also be given instructions, if you wish, that you can submit this to the Library of Congress across the Potomac River at the Veterans History Project, where they have thousands and thousands of stories from servicemen and women. Theoretically, that videotape will be here a couple hundred years from now, and one of your great-great-great-great-grandkids might stumble upon it. What would you want them to know about your service to your country?
I'd want them to know that it is, even though it's something that I did somewhat spontaneously myself, it's not something that I regret in the slightest. It's something that I think is a very good learning experience, especially for someone that's young, like I was when I chose to enlist, and even if someone who was even younger, coming straight out of high school, 18 years old. I think it is very good to serve in the military, not only to know what it's like to be a part of something much, much larger than yourself, but also to teach yourself discipline and the importance of things like attention to detail and commitment and drive and motivation, all of those things that come with being a good soldier and being a good person, even outside of the military.
Are there any other memories or anything else that you wanted to have documented today?
Aside from the thing with my dad, I think the most memorable experience I had here personally was, so we do the wreath laying ceremonies, obviously, and as of this recording, General Colin Powell died relatively recently, so I remember not long after that happened, there was obviously a lot going on around here, and I actually had the honor of conducting the wreath ceremony in his name, in his honor, and I remember that was probably the most memorable ceremony that I've done here. That walk, change, flag folding, anything. It was just kind of crazy to be able to lay a wreath in honor of someone so important to American military history.
Very cool. Well, Brendan, I can't thank you enough for spending the time with us today. And more importantly, thank you for your service, my friend.
Cool. Thank you very much. It was great to be here.